the day before Christmas Eve. So my family has a tradition now where we go and we spend the night at my parents' house. So there's 7 grandkids and then all my siblings, and we watch the Polar Express.
I love that.
We have a big slumber party. I love adult slumber parties.
Abigail Kessler, CDPAG. My favorite day of the year, at least once a year, I try to take a sick day for a mental health day and take my daughter out and have a little fun girls' day.
Yeah.
That's my favorite day.
Morning, everyone. My name is Sam. I would be T. And my favorite day is also Thanksgiving because it also aligns to my birthday.
Oh,
sometimes. I mean, it's hit or miss. It sometimes aligns.
Right around there.
Yes, yes.
I'm Ellie with Tiger Point, Colorado. And I think it's similar vein. My birthday is the summer solstice, so that might be my favorite day. It's the longest day of the year, it's great and sunny, and it's just fun.
Good morning, Laquita Walker with the Center for African American Health, and my favorite day is actually my son's birthday because he's just my favorite person in the world.
That's cute.
That's
It's Michelle Ames, Communications for the Blueprints, and I think my favorite day of the year is the first day of spring, but not the calendar first day of spring, but the first day you know.
Hey, Kevin, also with the Blueprint. It's kind of a floating day, but it's whenever we have a family reunion, which is scheduled with all my family in California, so usually around June or July every year.
Yes, good morning everyone, Max here from CHS, and I think any day during the summer, probably where no work, all family, just chilling and laughing and eating good food. So,
John on the phone?
John can't
he said
talk,
he can't talk.
but instead, John Rosa, CHS, his favorite day is Christmas Eve. They have an old Italian tradition of the Feast of the Seven Fishes, which is linguine with clam sauce, shrimp, bacala,
Sure.
and great food and wine.
Oh, that sounds yummy.
About 1 year.
I'd have to add that to Cheers, I'm like, no,
Oh, Courtney, VHS.
Can't beat John's best day. Juanita? Or I guess she already knows, right?
First day of fall is what she was going to do.
Okay. First day of fall.
Juanita?
This is Juanita, Servicios de la Raza. I guess my favorite day of the year, I have 2 of them. One is first day of fall and Halloween.
Oh, yes. Do love Halloween. And Matthew?
Hey, it's Matthew with the American Heart Association. I'm in the Little Rock office. My favorite day of the year is Valentine's Day. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. No, mine is actually Christmas Eve. Just a lot of family tradition and a lot of good food and just a great time. So.
That's like surprise me every day. We have a few other people. 720-314-0921.
Hi, this is Hannah Flowers with Benefits in Action. I'm also not feeling super well today, which is why I can't be there. But my favorite day of the year is January 10th because it's my boyfriend and I's anniversary. We always go somewhere warmer than Colorado on that day.
So. I like it. Okay, and the last person on the phone, 303-866-5352. That might be Juanita. Yeah, I think we got everyone. Okay, well, if I missed anyone on the phone, speak now, please. Okay, I think we're good. So really quick, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update about on Friday we had a governing council retreat, and A lot of it had to do with just figuring out how different groups were going to work together. So the program office, Trailhead Institute, Colorado Health Foundation, the governing council, the work groups. And I think the biggest thing for you guys to know is that they want us to have a lot of autonomy, which is great, but also there was some encouragement, I think, from the work group chairs for more direction and expertise and knowledge sharing from the governing council. So we will be reaching out to some of those folks because they are experts. There's a reason they're on the governing council. But in addition to that, they will be kind of, in addition, with Aaron's help, will be kind of the final approval group when we come to them with proposals. We have also asked them for a proposal template so that we know when we're going to them for money or any next big steps, we know exactly what we need from them. So I would say in terms of us and getting direction on our priorities, not quite there yet, but we will get there and hope to have more information for you in the next few months. The other thing I wanted to make sure you guys knew is there are 2 positions open for the blueprint. One is the communications and policy position, and one is the community engagement manager. And so both of those are due on Saturday, the 31st. Is that right? Is it the 31st?
I think in some places it says the 30th, so
Okay,
people
the
can submit
30th,
by Friday, right? But Saturday if it
And
comes
you should
through,
send
it's not.
people should send their cover letters and resume to Letitia. So share that because we all want the best for the blueprint. So those are the 2 things I wanted to update you on before I turn it over to Michelle.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So I was excited to get to this point today, and I want to tell you my personal goals for this meeting before we get started. My personal goals for this meeting is that we're going to pretty much approve the content that we're looking at here, and allow me to start building out the full suite of materials that we've talked about. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about my ideas for process for how we can do that in a way that continues to collect feedback from the group. I know we have kind of a smaller group than normal today, so I don't want to leave anybody's voice out, but I also want to keep pushing this train down the track, okay? So I want to start out, first of all, before we do anything else, by giving a huge shout out to Laquita and the Center for African American Health, and to Anita and Servicios for their yeoman's work in getting us some feedback on these materials.
Yes.
I will tell you, I know that they were doing it in the midst of another event that was keeping them really busy, and they somehow managed to wedge us in and get us 60 people giving us feedback on this material, which is, I think, much larger than I ever expected us to get feedback on. So I was really just, thank you so much. Really, Lydia, I'm sorry you can't be here so I can look in your eyes and thank you, but I really appreciate it. It was really helpful, and I think I made some good changes to the documents as we look at them that I think will help them be even more efficient, or even better than they were. Also want to thank Benefits Data Trust. You're going to see some language in here as tweaked from some learnings that Sam gave me, some of their best practices language as well. So this is all kind of a collective feedback and best thinking in a document that you see now. So before we get started, I just wanted to ground everybody in our question, the question that we started with at the beginning, which is how do we encourage potential participants to take the next step, right? Not how do we get them fully signed up and using their benefits effectively, but how do we get them to at least look into whether or not this works for them and whether or not it makes sense for their family and all of those next pieces, right? So just like to keep us grounded in that. All right, so I want to dive right into just taking a look at the materials themselves because I think this might be the quickest part of the conversation this morning. And I want to talk a little bit about the 2 concepts that I have kept going. I will tell you, if you'll remember, we started out with 3 concepts. One that was a sort of, you're not taking benefits away from others by doing this concept. One that was basically just a very straightforward, do you need food kind of concept. And the third one was the, would $100 help you, minimum benefit concept. And so looking at some of the feedback that we got from the outreach that was done by our partners, I didn't see a whole lot of efficacy around the just do you need food piece. And so I have narrowed down the concepts to 2 for you to take a look at today. I also want to say there was another reason for this as well, which is at this point we are looking at a number of different variations of these whatever number of concepts we do in terms of language and in terms of photography. And I will be telling you in a little bit that the report out from our small group that was looking at the referral piece of this is going to recommend even more versions of this based on region of the state for referral, so that there's a meaningful local referral source on all the posters. And given that we were looking at some astronomical number of versions that I just frankly thought was just way more than we should do. So, so based on some of the feedback that we got and some of the best practices sort of learnings that I got from BDT, I narrowed it down to these 2 concepts instead of the 3. So right off the bat, I want to tell you that's what I've done. If people object to that or have concerns about it, I hope they'll just holler out at me and we can talk about it some more. But in the interest of not having 72 versions of everything, it seemed like the right way to go. So, interestingly, in the message testing that our partners did for us, the absolute highest rated message that everyone reacted to the most strongly across the board at both events was, you're not taking things away from others if you do this. So I thought, we had heard, I had seen a lot of research that showed this was very effective with seniors, but it seems to be actually effective across the board, that people are genuinely not wanting to take things away from others or take things they don't really need or that sort of. So I really wanted to highlight that for you. The second most highly rated message that you see showing up on the posters, and not in either one of the main concepts, but in the little small block of text there, is the idea that you can shop where you want. That one rated high for everybody. And then we got pretty strong response about people understanding what they could do next to find out more. So I think that section of the poster is in pretty good shape. I want to talk to you a little bit about it more specifically in just a minute when I talk to you about the recommendations from our small group. But I think that section of the poster is working pretty well. And then, as no one in here is going to be surprised to hear, we got really good response to the visuals. And I should have said this when we started, so that you guys, you're only seeing 4 posters today. If we can focus on the content, I think I've heard the feedback on the visuals, and I think the best way to get additional feedback on the visuals is for us to build out this suite so you can see all the visuals that we're going to provide. And that way, if we have gaps or missing groups of folks or things that you think really need to be addressed, we can do it then. But to just sit here and list off groups of people that we think need to show up in photography probably isn't the best use of our time when it'll be easier for you to just see it visually when we post it. So, but we got a ton of great feedback, as I know you won't be surprised to hear, that people really appreciated seeing themselves in the poster in some way, seeing some combination of their family or, so of course we will, again, that's why I think maybe limiting ourselves to only 2 concepts is a better way to go, because we're going to have a large number of those 2 concepts so that we can visually represent as much as we can on the posters. So this is the first edition. We made some changes to this. I will admit they are subtle, but I think they are important and I think they are good. They come from the feedback directly. One is just changing the number so it's not quite so specific. I sort of like the specificity of the number because it felt real. Like when I tell you the exact number of people who are using Snap right now at seniors or something, it feels real. But I got a lot of good feedback that just didn't make any sense because it's such a moving target that like one day of the year, is that number correct or something? So, so we changed that just a little bit. Another change that we made to the posters, and everybody has them in their packet, and folks on the phone, you got them last night. Another change that we made to the poster is just changing things, using words like groceries and kind of subtle words that read a little bit better and make a little bit more sense. I will say that we got some feedback, I think it was from the Destination Health event, that folks were a little concerned about this paragraph being too hard to read, and that it should be bullet points as well. Right now, I haven't changed them to bullet points because I felt like it, first of all, just visually messed up the poster, and also we're trying to use the bullet points underneath to call out exactly what you should do next, and so it was starting to look like all one big mass of bullet points that were hard to differentiate. So I did not take that recommendation, but I'm certainly open to it if you all feel strongly that that would read better. But again, you see the message in this first concept about, you can shop where you want. We also removed all of the language that folks felt was a little too aggressive around everybody can get everything they want kind of language. There were some concerns about that. So all of that language, I hope, is gone. If it is not, if you feel it is not, please raise your hand and let me know, and we'll get that removed as well. And then the other change that was made to this concept is just the red box at the bottom. And if it's okay with everybody, I'll just address that once we go through the other concepts, because it kind of gets to our small group recommendations for this referral section in general. If you'll remember, in our last meeting, there was some concerns about what goes in this referral box and how do we make it meaningful both at a local level, and then make sure they also get access to the statewide resources that are available through folks like Hunger Free. And so we have some ideas for you there, and we want to share that with you. So I'll just save that for just a minute. So the next concept is the minimum benefit concept. So this one's an interesting one because in terms of the messaging, one of the things that that our partners did for us was test all of the high-level messages, and actually telling people the minimum benefit did not test as high as some of the other messages. However, that's a little bit contradictory to some of the information that we got from our friends at BDT in terms of what's motivating people to act. And so I've kept this in the mix because I think there's some value in telling people that it's actually worth their time to take the next step. And I think that there's some good BDT data that backs that up. So it is still here. I also want you all to know that we did explore the reverse of this, which is how much you save annually, right? There was another idea of, would this number look better or be more compelling if it was how much was saved annually? But Max explored that for us over at CDHS, and we just didn't have a number that we felt comfortable with, right? That we thought was going to be accurate. So we stayed with the benefit number, the minimum average benefit number. In terms of the language, otherwise, it has all stayed relatively the same. I added, this concept didn't have the whole you can shop where you want language, so I put that in there because that clearly, I felt like that strong indication that shopping where you want is a big deal to folks, which is great. So that is in here as well. Yes.
Sorry, can you remind me, $100, is it for an individual or is it for a family?
Well, I think this is households. The average is a little bit actually higher than that, but
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
We were trying to use a number that was probably a little bit more conservative.
Totally.
You could, I've seen numbers as high as 150.
Yeah, I think it is close to 147, right?
For a household,
Yeah.
not a person, not an individual.
Yeah, I think that's it, but I'd have to double check.
This is Juanita at Servicios, and I wanted to just interject about the annually amount, because normally people that are receiving food assistance don't like to think that they're going to have to be on food stamps for a year. So taking that out was really a good idea, because I think they'd like to think that maybe within 2, 3, 4 months that they'll be on their feet and won't have to use food assistance again. So I like the fact that you took that annually out.
That's a great point.
Great.
I think that average is for an individual.
Is it? I'll double check. I can't.
Yeah, because I think for like a week, I think it's around $30 a month on average for an individual.
Okay.
Or sorry, yeah, $30 a week.
On
So,
average,
like, if you
yeah.
calculate that out.
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's more appropriate to have the individual.
Yeah.
I agree, because I wouldn't want an individual to think they were getting $500 and that was the family number. So I like that it is talking about you and your family, but it's the number for the individual. That's nice.
And I did want to also point out to y'all that all of these concepts were translated into Spanish and laid out for Servicios as well. So we did get a little bit of feedback on the Spanish language version as well. So these are the two concepts that I've held, and I guess I just want to stop and see if there are any thoughts, comments, changes. And I'll also note for you, there's still a space at the bottom of the poster for local customization by adding the logo of the local organization. We just moved it to the center, so if you didn't have the resources or the to do it, it didn't make the poster look off balance and strange. So they can just put their logo right there in the center if they want to.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
And you might have mentioned this, but I don't think so. The language that that people really liked around they're not taking a benefit from someone else, like how do you feel like that's reflected in these posters?
The first one is the poster that really does that, which is 61,000 seniors are already doing this and you can too.
Okay.
Right? That translates for people into
like you're
it's
not
okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's okay that you're not taking something from someone else.
It's not a direct, you aren't taking away from others.
No.
I was just wanting to make sure.
No. It's just a subtle way of telling people that lots of folks are already doing it and it's okay.
And there's resources.
And there's resources. Yeah. And we reinforce that language just a little bit in the paragraph underneath, in the 8 words that we're allowed to put in that paragraph. So is everybody relatively comfortable with the language now? Again, respecting the fact that you're going to get another chance to do the visual review once I can lay them all out for you and you can actually see all the visuals.
And which was the concept that we dropped?
It was the very straightforward, do you need food?
Oh.
Yeah, it was very straightforward, yeah. And again, I'm not married to leaving that out. I was just thinking down the road, right? We've got, if we decide to go forward with our plan to basically translate into the same languages that WIC is translated into, that's 5-6 languages there, plus English, and I'm gonna also advocate to you that we have a bunch of regional versions. So it's gonna get really a lot of versions if we don't apply a little discipline here in the number of concepts that we have.
Well, I feel like these two are really like, they have intention and reason and a real story behind them. The other one was a little more vague, and so it may not actually lead to that change that we're hoping for, because I feel like that's the messaging that's already been used and maybe some other, but I'm not an expert. That's just what I would say.
Well, and I will tell you, I have a secret fantasy for these that would take some doing and probably is something farther down the road, but I hope that these morph into personal stories of real Coloradans and not just stock photos of guys, right? So that this becomes in Colorado, 61,000 seniors are doing it, and this John Smith, who lives in Lakewood, is doing it, and here's his very quick story. I mean, I'm hopeful, and I think both of these concepts will allow for that change to occur once we kind of have the organization to do it. So I hope these don't stay around forever. I hope they become a little bit more engaging. All right, so is there anything else that you all want to talk about regarding content? The content of the language or any of that? Everyone's feeling okay? All right, again, this is not the last bite of the apple. These will all get built out and posted for your comment before they ever go anywhere. So if you need to take some of this back or other questions you want to ask folks in your organization or concerns that you have, you'll have plenty of time to raise your hand and tell me what that is, okay? All right, then let's move on and talk a little bit about the referral section. So our small group met, and Max, I think, and Sam, you were on the call too, right? So you guys jump in if I misstate anything, but I think what our small group came to in terms of the referral section is this. We are going to create a set of these that is editable, right? The challenge with creating the editable ones is that it costs you money as an organization to edit them, because you have to have the right kind of Adobe to edit text in Adobe, and that costs about $15 a month. So That may not be possible for a lot of organizations, and if our goal is to disseminate these as widely and have them used as widely as we can, we also want to create a set of these that have region-specific referrals, right? So that our friends at Benefits in Action have referral on the poster where they should. Care and Share has referral on the poster where they should. I didn't have them in time to get these ready for today, so you do not see them reflected here, but they will be on the posters, and then we can just put them on the website with different regional headers so you know where you should be looking. But again, this creates an even larger number of versions of this that we need to produce. So, so that was the sort of decision on that. I'll note for you as well that we initially had 211 in here. That is out now just because we're going to need at least one, if not two more lines in this when we're customizing by region. And so at some point it gets to be too many, right, to do. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Yeah, and I can just add, we're not really losing anything by taking 211 off, since the food resource hotline is on there, and that's the same service being offered in both. So, just for anyone who has concerns.
So is it the same phone numbers?
It's not the same phone number, but like we trained 211 on how to use an application. So the fact that our hotline is on there means that like that same service is being offered in both places.
Okay, it's just two different phone numbers, and got it.
And with the customizable versions, if you were a group that really felt 211 was something you really needed to have on the poster, you could just take out one of the existing and put 211 in if you could do the customization. And I guess there's a possibility that we could offer customization services if we wanted to, but that's a kind of an internal resource decision that I think Erin would need to make if that's something we want to take on. I know there's some possibility for some money for printing for organizations who don't have printing money. So maybe we want to do that as well. I don't know, but that's sort of the reality that we're in. Additionally, oh, sorry.
No, I just have a question with regard to the order. Like, what do we want them to do first? Do we want them to see if they're eligible and then call the hotline, or how does that work? Because it says reach out to see if you're eligible, but that's like the last step that you have here.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think we should definitely discuss that. What had occurred was we had this list of things you could do first to just get help from a person right away, or get help online. And the bottom line, we added over concerns that not everybody will be eligible, and we don't want to imply that everybody who calls will be eligible. And so we added that line, reach out to see if you're eligible. And then BDT offered their screener as another resource that people could check into to see if they should take another step. And so we've added that to the poster. I can't argue that it's incredibly thoughtful that the exact order. So if we think they need to be reordered, we absolutely should. The benefits launch, right, remember, is the screener that BDT has that just gives you that baseline, yes, go or no go for the next step.
I like it. I'm on benefits launch, and it says, what is SNAP? How can we help you find out? And am I eligible? I think that would be really good to have at the top. That's
okay.
Good point.
As another resource, just like listed like the other resources as opposed to called out.
No, list to find out if you're eligible first, and then if you like what it is, I mean, because it's telling you what it is and the information, then you can go to the other steps.
Okay.
Is the other
rather than calling the hotline and them telling you, oh, now you've got to go, now we've got to find out. You find out on your own whether you're eligible.
Right.
The other two steps are helping you to actually enroll, correct?
Right, and they can screen for eligibility too.
Okay.
So, and I don't know, I haven't looked at the benefits launch to know kind of what it asks or how it walks you through, but each will also kind of screen for eligibility like within that resource.
And the endpoint for benefits launch does lead you to a hotline to call, the PEAK website, or an in-person for county office site too. But yeah, I guess it is kind of, sort of that call to action, like, oh, see if you're eligible, and then we'll kind of lead you. But yeah, and then having his other resources are maybe someone already knows and they just need that quick and fast number or website to go to as well too. Another thing with the benefits launch, and I was hoping to actually get people's feedback here too, is we really want to track to see how outreach materials are being utilized. And so we actually, this is the ceobenefitslaunch.org, that's our one URL right now. But what we'd like to do is actually do a customized like subdomain or URL for this specific one. And so I'd love to get people's feedback as what we would want. I was talking with my team and trying to figure out what would be an easy way to kind of track it. We were like, well, how well known is Blueprint? Like, do we want to put like Blueprint snap.colorado, and if that's not a well-known thing, or like, yeah, okay, good. I want to get
After no.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So that's out. But yeah, is it like Colorado Snap? Is it outreach dot blah 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 blah?
Like snapbenefits.org?
Yeah, or something like that, where it would be a good. We could tie it in, and it would be also because maybe people don't know. What benefits launch is, but if we tag it with like Snap or something, that additional kind of call to action that would help us.
You're talking like about a vanity URL and then have that trackable?
Exactly, yeah, subdomain sort of thing too. So we, because we're utilizing we're trying to see how we're getting pings from different areas. And so if we have like a unique subdomain or URL, subheading or whatever to the link, we can see, oh, wow, look at this. This outreach material we're getting a lot of information, we're getting a lot of pings from it, and we're able to kind of track it and provide feedback as to how that's being utilized as well.
That's all.
If we can, thank you. If we can put a pin in this particular metrics conversation, I'm getting to it. I just want to, because it's part of a larger question that I need feedback from this group on, but, and so Sam we'll get back to your Earl and the tracking because you're part of the metrics for sure. Perfect. But in terms of, so maybe just reordering this list a little bit.
Well, I guess I have one question on that. So do you guys have like existing data from Benefits Launch already that's like how many people are falling off once they screen? Because it feels also like it's an additional step if they're not connected, or like if it's the end game is like call a hotline and they could have just called a hotline, like are we adding a step for people? I like the autonomy that it gives people, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's always kind of been my little question and concern with that too. So we are currently still kind of in the evaluation period with Benefits Launch, and the way that we've just used it right now for our pilot is through our traditional letters. So we send out our letters to dual enrollees, encouraging them to apply and having that link. And so we are tracking it, kind of determining, how many people are initially going to the website, how many people are making it through, the 3 questions that we ask. And then from there, following up, if someone leaves a phone number or an email, we're able to actually follow up with them, send them a text message, be like, hey, saw that you chose to do the in-person. Were you able to go in person? Yes, no. And then we call them guardrails to kind of keep them on track in that regard. So hard, fast data, not yet, but it is something that we're tracking and evaluating too.
And based on what you know now, where would you recommend that this go in the scheme of things?
So in talking to my team and Benefits Launch, there's another iteration of it in Philadelphia, and they have noticed that when they put their information with others, that having it at the top has been seen to be most successful because it's that initial call to action. But I also do like having applying that, if you already know you're eligible and you have these yes, it does somewhat seem like an extra step, but if the intent of this material is to get people that, that call to action that didn't know that they might be eligible, having this little piece, having the Benefits Launch URL there, that call to action to do it, ultimately leads you to these next steps. But that they do recommend having it first, but
not just to your point, because I just went through the process. While you're on the phone,
That's amazing.
it tells me that you still might be eligible. Because based on your answers, you may not be eligible for SNAP benefits. We encourage you to click on the Apply for SNAP button below and submit an application for a more detailed assessment by your county SNAP office. So if they're going to give them that answer, it probably is best for them to talk to someone. What do you think? You talk to someone, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, let's go through the process and see what happens, because I might get discouraged and go, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna call him back. Yeah, so.
And see, the way I did it as a powerful senior. And so I married senior and with like an income of like 2,000, whatever. And so my answer was, you might be eligible for SNAP. We can't guarantee eligibility, but you might be eligible based on your answers. Choose the way you want to apply. Do it yourself and recommend it by phone. And then the third one is in person.
Do you have any information about how long it takes so that people don't abandon the process at that stage? 'Cause
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I already
I was
went
like,
through
my
and answered
mind
these
is-
questions. I don't feel like moving forward.
And the screener is intended to take 2 to 3 minutes to do.
I mean, not for this, but I mean, I don't know, maybe even for this, but certainly online,
That
giving
next step,
people a sense of like, if you're gonna go to this next step, how long is this gonna take? Like, if it's really truly only gonna take 2 to 3 minutes.
Well, I mean, this launch is 2-3 minutes, but depending on your circumstances,
Okay, yeah.
as an individual, it might be your application might take you some time, depending on your circumstance. So it can be 30 minutes, or it could be an hour, it really just
So there's not a
depends.
good answer that.
There's
would
not a
make it
good
like-
answer based on your
Right.
circumstances, but I'm wondering, you know, part of this conversation, the benefits launch just was rolled out, and we still are collecting data on it, and we're still figuring out our outcomes. I'm wondering if the strategy sort of just to leave it as it is now makes the most sense, as we know our hotline services for Benefit Action Center, for the food assistance line. All of those things are standard processes that have been in place for a long time with our outreach partners. And so I'm wondering if that is the order we keep, just to
I think after going through this process, I would say yes.
Yeah, I like it.
It was pretty simple.
Yeah,
Did we change the wording for, I mean, we're trying to say, find out if you're eligible and apply, like, do you put that in the top,
You
or do you
could
just
say a
leave it as?
pre-screening tool for eligibility or something like that, an eligibility pre-screening tool.
I don't know, because all three of these, in a sense, are leading to the same, it's just a
They are
different
leading,
process.
that's correct.
I think my idea in starting this whole list of what to do is just giving people a few different options for how they get started.
Yep.
And they pick the one they're most, if they'd rather just do it themselves online, or if they actually want to call and talk to a human being. I think, Max has some hopes that some of these customizable ones will be like, if you need to talk to a person, actually want to sit with a person, look them in the face and have them help you, here's a local resource for that. So that was my goal here, was to just give a list of things that people could do what they're comfortable doing.
But there are 2 URLs, so I
That's the
think the
part,
question is like,
What do we
hope
hope
for
the
people?
pre-screening language? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a different word, since people don't really know what that means, maybe, but like something that gets that same point.
Well, because they might be more willing to do a pre-screen that takes 2 minutes, rather than I'm gonna call and set, like, this is a terrible example, but if you tell me to call a customer service line and I know I'm gonna wait forever, I'm not ever gonna call them. Versus if I am told I have to do a survey that's 2 minutes, I'll at least take that step. So maybe it's take a quick survey to find out if you're eligible, or.
Didn't take us long.
Yeah, you guys did it. So coming from that perspective, but it may be different based on your circumstance, your age, preference.
I was thinking maybe change the Colorado Peak to apply online at, because it takes you directly to the application.
Yeah, I like that. Also,
And then I like the find out if you're eligible language. I think it's simple and clear. And that's what pre-screening it means.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So apply at, the site is down for maintenance.
Apply.
For a
terrible experience.
That is a steep transformation, but we're working on it.
Our goal is to get people to take the next step. And then you guys, there's many other groups in the Blueprint are gonna work on all these other pieces. Okay.
Yeah, Work Group 4 is gonna fix Peak, so,
Yeah.
they have a technology team around it.
So have we decided you can call the food resource hotline, apply online at colorado.gov/peak, or find out if you're eligible? Is that?
Yeah, and remember, in many cases, there'll be at least one more option on all of these posters that is a local option.
Right, and I don't wanna say find out if you're eligible because our outreach partners don't determine eligibility, they just give you an idea of whether they submit applications on your behalf, the county determines eligibility.
Find out if you might be eligible? I guess then then you're like, maybe.
Yeah. I know in another iteration of some other material, we have something like, do you have 3 minutes to get started? That's okay.
I
Oh,
like the idea of putting the time in.
yeah.
Like.
I like that because
Since you
then it's
can't
like-
put it on the other part, the application part, but the screening part, you can, like, it's 2 minutes.
Does the information transfer over from the screening section to the application section? Doesn't
No,
it peak
because
either?
it'll be, yeah. But the
Not
screener is
exactly.
pretty, I mean, it's really high level. It's like your age, your family size, your income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right.
I'll ask you about this online, the pre-screening, because it's kind of interesting. They only had 3 blocks that of your annual salary to choose from. And so I was like, I make more than this, but I can't. Does that mean that I make more than this, I'm automatically not eligible? So
Oh, right, like you
Yeah.
couldn't select the true
I could
range.
select my true range.
Yeah, so I'd say, is that how it's structured? Like obviously only those income levels are ones that are in the eligible range.
That's a good question. I can kind of follow up on that. Because I think you have the option to do annual,
To
monthly, or weekly too. But I imagine it would translate regardless if, but that's something, yeah.
So I'm gonna change this line, given that I don't wanna lose the spirit of acknowledging to people that not everybody is eligible that would go on here, right? That was one of the concerns that we heard. I specifically heard it from the counties, some county folks, like we needed to be clear that not everyone who wants it can get it. But maybe changing that last line to take 3 minutes to find out if you're eligible, and then the URL that you're gonna do to help Sam figure out here in just a minute. Is that sit okay with everybody, at least for this next iteration?
What, is that the language you guys use or?
So it's, yeah, I mean, it's hard because again, we try to, when promoting the screeners, removing that eligibility piece because we don't, but, yeah, I mean, it's like that loose language with might be, could be, maybe. I mean, on the screener itself, it says numerous times that if this isn't determining your eligibility, you may likely be eligible to take this next step to actually do the application because it isn't an application. It's kind of just that first call to action to get people like, oh, okay, interested, and then ideally taking the next step.
Do people feel like we need might be eligible instead of eligible? I'm just fighting for fewer words.
I think literally all in order. If it's already gonna be addressed, they actually go and plug in all their information. I would. Thank you, that's my.
Stay on my team. I would take people on my less words team. All right.
What did we decide? Sorry.
So I think we're gonna leave it in the order that it is now, knowing that in many of these posters, we're gonna have at least one more local resource here in the resource list, and then the bottom line will now read, take 3 minutes to find out if you are eligible, and then the BDT URL that we're
Do
gonna
you have a
help
problem
Sam.
with eligible?
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I thought.
I just wonder if it sounds as if someone is taking this to determine if they are eligible. That's what it feels like to me. And then they have to complete a full application for an hour, and then they have to go into the county for an interview. It just.
Would it make sense to say like complete a brief pre-screening tool or like use a brief pre-screening tool or something like that with it?
Screening like something people, I don't know.
Do they know what that is?
So I mean, it seems like
I know.
that's
It's just
simple
what-
language, but
what
at the
else
same
do you
time,
use
it's
in
a little bit more
non-eligible?
like it sounds.
I agree.
I think it's that
Not
might
really
be
finding
eligible
out.
language, which I know people don't.
So you, instead of saying,
Yeah, take a.
You
take
happy?
these- I liked adding might be.
you have
But I'm on this side.
to make sure that, I was saying, I think we're like the delineation.
I want to bring up those, I feel, and I think that this is great because it's very kind of simple and user friendly, but whatever number you put in, it still says you might be eligible. So I still feel like we're, like, even if you say I make $500,000 a year, it still says you might be eligible to apply for SNAP. So I feel like we're giving people another step in the process that's gonna make it one more thing for them to do before they apply. Without giving them like a yes or a no. It basically always says yes.
That's what I'm saying, so then why have a screening tool that doesn't really?
No matter what, I'm gonna be calling, I'm gonna need to take that next step.
To really find out.
To find out for sure.
But it does tell you where to go for that next step, which is helpful, right? So if you put in your zip code, it's gonna tell you where your county office is or where you get in person, or if you want over the phone, then where to call. But it's specific to certain partners, right, which is part of are all partners a part of that?
I mean, for the in-person and counties, yeah, that includes like any other partner that's doing in-person assistance, any county office that's doing it. And then one thing I think too, which what I'm hearing what you're saying is like, oh, I still have to, it says still you might be eligible, and the truth of the matter is, it's not, we don't determine eligibility. You would still have to call your office to determine it. So, I mean, if the screener did say you're not eligible, I mean, we don't decide that. You know, you would ideally still have to take that next step regardless to see if you were, because the county office is the one that determines yes or no.
Yes, and you couldn't write it otherwise.
Yeah.
But some of the numbers that come up are different than the numbers on here. From someone so we oversee WIC, and there are a lot of nonprofits that are trying to help WIC, but as a person who might be trying to apply for WIC, nobody knows where to go because there are all of these different resources, all of these different websites, and I just feel like it can be really confusing for the user or the potential person to sign up. So what I guess is the answer is that's okay as long as they're calling any of the numbers, in which case maybe we're okay with that. But I think, the user is going to get a different phone number on this website than they do on the form.
Right.
Or on the poster.
I think leaving it on the bottom makes a lot of sense. And then if we can get data on like how many people are actually going to that website, and then how many people that get this, like you might qualify, are actually applying, like to see that if we are getting a drop off, I think we would want to track that. And
do the screeners get?
I'm sure you guys are tracking that.
Do the screeners get?
Or whoever, like once the people call the office, do they say, hey, did you hear about us, or how did you find this information? Like, is that, do we close that loop in terms of?
They'd have to click apply online to get that loop closed.
Yeah, so for that, how benefits launch, so it's in a pilot stage right now. So those who are receiving the URL are actually people that we are tracking we send out our outreach letters. Of those people that are receiving the outreach letter, they're getting the URL, so we can see if they called us or if they went to Peak, we can see that, oh, they were someone that received our outreach letter that had the URL. Hence why, in getting it in other material, that's why we would want to have that unique tracking so we could tell. But yes, it is information that we are tracking. Yeah.
I just wonder if we want to go back to the recommendation we had from our small groups is make it outreach partner specific, because we have relationships with community partners across the state, and those relationships differ based on the partner that you're working with. So we've got 4 outreach partners. And if we had a set of assets for each partner that had Hunger Free's line, an in-person assistance, and then Peak, right? Those are the things that were for Hunger Free. For BDT, it could have benefits launch, it had your hotline, and if you have in-person, or if it's just Peak, right? And then Care and Share gets the same packet. So someone in a partner organization could say, I partner closely with Hunger Free, I'll download these Hunger Free assets, edit if I have the capacity to. Otherwise, I just keep the Hunger Free hotline as is. And I know that gives us 4 different sets of assets, but we were kind of going down that pipeline anyway, and I'm wondering if that's a cleaner way to go about doing this.
I also wonder if it might be confusing though for community partners. I don't know. I liked having the customized, you could put a local resource on there.
Yeah, I
but
do too.
I don't know if we want to get so specific that we've got multiple asset groups. Because then someone who just wants to go on and print a flyer that they can put up might not have a specific outreach partner, like, so what it, and then, I don't know, I guess I don't wanna create too much confusion. I think simplicity is best. I was excited when we kind of simplified this block and then said like, yeah, we'll have like a customizable line for your local resource, so we can have that in there too. But I think as you get more and more and more, like one from a maintenance side, but also just from a use side, I don't wanna create too many barriers to people using these materials.
I can see, now I started working for Community College of Aurora, and they do have a whole SNAP program with a SNAP page. I checked it out, and their partner is human resources. And so I could see them using something like this and putting the human resources connection in, because they already have a partnership.
Which I think is great, and that's why, you know, they could like stick their logo on there, stick their resource on there, so it's kind of like, here's, you know, a phone number, a website, maybe a screening tool, and then like a local resource. And it just kind of simplifies, like, this is how we can all, you know, move forward, and we don't have to create multiples of these. I don't know.
How do folks feel? Is that comfortable? Sure.
I like
The fact that I'm still planning on making the regional ones, right?
I mean, yeah, I like having this as kind of your standard template, and then if people need to change things out, like they can, right?
Absolutely.
So
Again,
what are you proposing for the editable piece, like as
yes,
far
the
as?
editable one will be editable. That box will be editable.
As in like what's, like
So, right, so in Adobe, you will be able to edit it in Adobe, and you have, but it is a $15 a month subscription service to do that. So we are, by virtue of saying that, making it impossible for some set of our groups who want to use these things to do that, right?
So Adobe, yeah.
So it's really short of having a really nice back end like WIC does for its posters, where they are fully customizable inside this thing, which has walls and passwords that you can't get into. This was the only other way that I could make a poster editable and still retain some quality. I mean, one of the goals that we had at the beginning of this is that we didn't want people to feel like they were getting the crummy materials, right? So we want to I got to keep it in PDF so that no matter who tries to print it, it will print well for them.
Yep.
And maintain the, you know, the look. So that's sort of my non-negotiable on the design side. And Adobe Acrobat's really the best place to do it, but there's a cost barrier to it for sure. Now, I think, you know, assuming Erin is okay with this down the road, we can put stuff on the page where people can download these to say, if you need help, you know, editing this document, you know, the document you want to use, or if you need help with printing costs, reach out to this email or this phone number and you can get help. So we can add an extra resource there for people to get help, but the reality is that if we make this editable in the section, they have to have the resources to do it, or reach out to them. So that is what that is. All right, so is it comfortable for me to move ahead with basically keeping it simple like this, basically in the same order that we have it now, with the understanding that there'll be a line for local customization on a version of all of these. And then we'll get to the benefits, Earl, in just a second, because there's a larger metrics conversation we need to have together. Okay, all right, let's move on to the next piece of this.
Just checking on the phone, just thinking, does anyone on the phone have anything they want to add?
No.
Okay. Bless you.
Juanita.
All right, so really quick conversation here about the assets we're going to create. I know early in this process we kind of brainstormed lots of kind of out of the box ideas, but the reality is that we have a certain budget. And I think we need to at least create the foundational pieces first before we get out of the box with grocery bags and top things for your phone and all the other great ideas that we had, vegetable peelers and I don't know, there's a whole list. It was fun. I had a fun time listening to you guys brainstorm. I can't put any of them up here, but anyway, so the posters, right? flyers, some kind of a rack card or postcard that is either, that could be mailable, but also is, you know, just you can put them somewhere for folks to pick up and hang on to. I wanted to argue for some digital landing page content, and this has a relation to our metrics conversations, so I want to acknowledge that up front, but some kind of content that we could just hand folks to put on their website so they don't have to make any of their own content. We can give it to them to put there, and then they can put the posters there and reach out to their networks and say, come to our site and download. Again, this gets to the metrics conversation to some degree, but
so you're simply mean a page, maybe on the Blueprint website, where we would host these electronically?
Yes,
or
we are definitely going to host them on the Blueprint website. However, do we want to create it, make it an easy way for other people to host this content as well, right? So, you know, Max has had the good idea of having some content that is sort of local mobile options for connecting with food resources. You know, we could host those on the Blueprint website along with this content, and we could make all of this content available to any of our network partners that want to host it as well. Again, this goes through the metrics conversation, but just in terms of, I'm showing my hand, I'm on the side of pushing this out as widely as we can, even though I have no control over it once it goes out there, and I can't tell you down to the infinitesimal person who downloaded it and how many posters they put out, right?
This is a challenge we have with our campaign because we work with so many community partners. So we have a landing page, and we're actually redoing our website. It'll be slightly different, but we have a landing page for our partners where we do have some of our key resources like our flyer poster and then a marketing toolkit. But then we also have the option to go to our online store and order materials to be printed or downloaded. So obviously when people select they're going to download something, we try to ask, you know, how many people do you think you're going to reach with this? Like, it's imperfect and we're still trying to figure it out. But we do include like that, like, you know, how are you going to share this? How many people do you think you're going to reach? I mean, it's not perfect, but it's like some way to try to get that information. Sometimes I just call or email people and be like, oh yeah, you know, and I send them something and, you know, I say, they're going to link to our flyer or link to something, a video or something. And I try to ask them, like, how many people do you think you're going to reach with this? Or how many people do your newsletter go out to, or things like that. So I don't know that that's perfect, but if, you know, maybe just on the whatever landing page these assets are, ask, that would be just really sort of like, how many people do you anticipate reaching, or how are you going to share this? Yeah, are you going to put it in your lobby? You're going to share it in the newsletter?
This is Juanita Servicios, and we are having a Medicare event here on the 10th of October, I think. And Colorado Gerontology is sending out 25,000 informational postcards about the meeting that we're having. God only knows we can't have 25,000 people here. However, during that that 2-hour meeting, I would like to present some of these materials. So I would be wanting to print maybe 100, 150 of those in color, which we have the capacity to pay for that right now. I can't tell you what's down the line, but we do have that capacity at the moment. So how would you want us to report how many people received those? Or we just tell you how many people were at the meeting and this many people got that many materials, or how does that work?
That's a great question, Juanita. Hang with me for one more minute and we're going to get to it because it's the larger metrics question as well, right? Okay. So, because I do want to put some fences around that. That's the exact next question. Before we move on to that piece, these assets feel comfortable to everybody, at least for the first pass? Yeah. Respecting the digital landing page, that's a larger question for the metrics, but that's okay. So that'll be our first pass of content.
And really quick, the social media will be taking this and just putting it into like a post, not like
making it a simple graphic post that people can use to drive traffic with on their own platforms.
Great.
Again, my intention for how these assets get done is I'm going to build all these out, and I'm going to build them out in the various, the variations that include different photography. And then I'm gonna put them in our Google Drive, all of them. And then you can see them all together. So you can notice if there's some representation that I'm missing of individuals or families. You can take one more look at the content and say, oh, you know what, I just decided it's gotta be, might be, it can't be, will, or else we're all gonna die, right? So all of that stuff. So that's my intention, is I'll get all this built out, I'll put it up there. I think we'll also build it out in Spanish at the same time, because we have translation services. We can get that, thank you. We can get that done relatively efficiently, so we'll do it in Spanish as well, so folks can react to that. And then we know that coming down the road are multiple other languages that we don't have the translation services in-house for right now, but they will come. And we can add those as we accomplish them. Okay. All right, so that's my plan for you.
If it helps, WIC might be rethinking how many things we translate into other languages.
Okay.
So if that is part of the decision-making, all I can kind of keep you posted. We might only be doing English and Spanish anymore, for cost reasons.
Yeah. It seems really, I mean,
it's
really
kind of
great.
a lot.
I got the estimate from my graphic designer when I was talking about like 4 million versions of things, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
we won't be doing that. Thank you. My graphic designer is cheap, and I was like,
I think the translation languages too, I like English and Spanish, and I think like having a conversation with these partners about what resources are available for applications in what languages are those available, because if we're putting like this in Vietnamese and then they're like going to something like it's all in English,
right.
I don't know how helpful that is for people.
Agreed.
Well, you might qualify, but there's actually really no way to get access.
Right. Okay. So that's my plan for your review and feedback, and we'll talk about timeline on that in just a little bit. Okay, the next area I just want to talk to you about was quickly about distribution. Again, all of these are leading to our metrics conversation, which is the larger one that we need to have. Per our previous conversations, at least at this point, the plan for distribution is the blueprint will promote these assets itself as much as we can with the networks that we have in our newsletter, on our website, on our social platforms. All of your organizations are partners. This will be shared out, of course, to all of our partners, and we'll be making the direct ask from the blueprint that they share it with their networks that might not be part of the blueprint network. I'd like to consider, if you all are willing, because we don't know definitively all of the networks that all of you reach, we might want to consider some kind of a sign up to either let us know who you think you can reach with your network so we can see where our gaps are, and then maybe all take one or two groups that none of us have a relationship necessarily existing with now, but we think might be a good resource to get it out at the local level, to make that one phone call or that one contact to say, hey, if we sent you some posters, would you put them up? Or if we, right? So I'd like us to at least consider that as part of the distribution, just to kind of get that third ring, because we've got our own partner networks and we've got each of your networks. But I know we probably are not reaching everybody even with that. So I just wanted the group to consider that as a possibility. And then how far reaching out do we want to do on the printing and customization assistance? We can certainly put information about that on the Blueprint website and offer contact to get help for that, to just try to remove that as a barrier to folks using this stuff. But I don't know. I mean, that's probably mostly a decision for Erin about capacity internally, and I don't think we're going to have a deluge of thousands of calls a day trying to get a hold of these posters, but there will be some staff time and cost involved in it if we decide to take that on as a way to reduce barriers.
We'll wait till positions close. But we can build that.
I'm guessing there's no danger we're getting posted tomorrow anyway, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
I do think we have some printing money in our current planning contract, which ends September 30th. So that's also just out there. Not that we have to use it then, but that would be ideal.
Great.
How does, just a quick question. So are you able to just say, if someone were to come in and say, are you able to give them a maximum amount you could print up to 100? Like be able to track how many people have CCA printed, you say, you know, CCA probably has their own, but anyway, if they wanted to print, it could say, you know, you can get 100 copies for free, then are you able to track who's printing or able to put that limitation of the amount?
We can do anything we want, right? I mean, we can, on the website, we can say, we'll print up to 2,000 copies of this for you and mail it to you if we want.
Oh, you're gonna, okay, so
it would be us, right?
You would be printing.
Yeah, my point is, if we can, it'd be great to provide people a reason to use these if the barrier for them is getting them printed, if the cost of getting them printed is the barrier for them, we could do that and mail it to them or deliver it to them if they're in proximity.
And I think initially we wouldn't put parameters around that. I think we would just leave it and kind of see what requests we get, and we just have to put some language that, like, it's not guaranteed that we will be able to print your 5,000 copies and mail it to 18 locations.
Right.
But
I was into, you know, just some, I guess, new age digital stuff where you could just, okay, I'm gonna put in 100 and they'll cover the cost and I'm gonna pick them up or something like that.
And there are mechanisms that we can use to do that, but that's again another cost to sort of manage that create that whole process and then manage it.
I was just asking what they.
They're just.
I think the NDS for sure, but because most of our organizations work in that world anyway.
All right. Yeah. So we need to find a home for that. I mean, I don't want to inadvertently create a resource that causes one of our sub-recipients to accidentally use something they shouldn't.
Yep.
Right? So it needs a home pretty much on all the versions then, right?
I feel like, could we put it on the very bottom and like italics?
Can we put it on the back?
Yeah.
It's up on the wall and how big does the font have to be?
It's like a lot of border.
It does have it, yeah, I know.
Of course, are you kidding me? There's like 100 rules around the
a size font on this is pretty small, especially if you're doing a printed poster version.
You don't care if people actually not your fault. My God, they're gonna read it today. Okay.
Could you move up the logos a tiny bit, Michelle? And just
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I'll strip it across the bottom, or yes, we'll probably just strip it across the bottom. And but it sounds to me like no matter what, it's got to be on everything, just so we don't inadvertently cause someone to do something they shouldn't.
That's what I
We
would
said
say.
it's 8 point.
If you do postcards, something small enough, all you have to do is the NDS. But you and I can talk about it.
Thank you. I appreciate the rules.
Yeah, they're
All right.
a little bit subjective.
So now the conversation that I've been making you wait on that we need to talk about, which is the metrics. So, you see, Sam, I had the Earl on here all along. By your Earl. Okay. So I think that there is, to some degree, in my head, there's a larger question that we can all agree on that will make some of these answers a little bit easier. And the question is, do we want to lean heavily into distribution and pushing it out as much and as widely as we can? Or is our higher priority knowing exactly how many of these were downloaded, where, and who used them, and how they were used? And I think that's an important question, not only because it affects distribution, but also it affects our ability to create some kind of a feedback loop to some degree. Because one of the ideas that we had when we started this was some kind of iterative process here that allows us to keep making these resources better, making sure they work at the local level, making sure the visuals really are what we thought they would be, because we don't have this larger endless focus group process and polling and all of that stuff to do it with. So it's an important question, and it's one that I wanted to bring to the group because I know where I fall on the spectrum, but I'm not the only person here. So, you know, what we can do, the metrics we can control right now are the BDT offer of their URL, so we know if we're driving traffic to their screener, and the website downloads that happen on the Blueprint website. I can see all of those. Now, I can't tell you how many of them got printed and where they got necessarily, but we can build in some questions on the back end that will help us at least estimate a little bit of that. Those are the only two things we can really control. I can also, you know, I can look at shares and things like that for you on our social, from our social media platforms, but I don't, you know, beyond that.
We do ask how people like heard about the hotline and how they got connected when they call in as well. So, I mean, there is, not that that always gets answered or makes sense or whatever, but like there's some tracking that happens there too.
Right.
Through the hotline.
And I suspect that all of our partners could offer us, that we're gonna work with on this, to some degree, our media partners could offer us something like that, but then that requires Blueprint staff time or somebody to go around and collect all that information from you all, right? And gather it somewhere and put it somewhere. So again, and once we get out of that first concentric ring, as we all know, it becomes less and less likely that we're gonna know how these things got used, and how you know, how they got delivered necessarily. Because, you know, there's an idea inside the distribution plan that we're just gonna push this material out, right? And we're gonna ask you all to just push it out to your networks, provide it, you know, or push them to our website, but provide it to them directly if they need it. I mean, so the question really comes down to how tight a rein do we wanna keep on this in terms of the metrics that we wanna see at the end, and what are your concerns about getting a feedback loop going? We can do the feedback loop in a different way where we could just do some intentional outreach to some collection of partners that we choose that would be, how's it working, what's not working, you know, what would you like different, kind of that sort of survey follow-up that we could be intentional about, so we could take care of that to some degree. But
I think I don't think it's either or, but I do think we just decide what you want to track and is useful to help make, you know, improvements in the future, and then try to, like, we're not going to be able to do it all, like, it's not going to be perfect, but I think for us, a lot of it, again, back to, you know, kind of pieced it together, but I think the, like our referral piece, we always ask, whether it's somebody going to a tax site, or somebody calling 211, how did you get here? Like that has to be part of it. The other part that we try to do, the other part that you can do is also just be understanding like what partners are using, like how are they using what we're providing them? Are they using Flyer? Are they using, like, so we look at like what's most useful. Are they using our social media posts? Are they using, you know, a website or content or newsletter content? And, you know, and then, I mean, some of it is legwork after the fact, like, do you use it electronically? People want to print it, you know. So I think, like, there's a time frame in which you want to do that follow-up with those partners, and not all the partners, but I do think there's, again, the option to have something really brief, 1 or 2 questions about how many people they think they're going to reach and how they're going to distribute, you know, the assets that they from your partner website.
And I mean, we could see, I mean, we have two, right? So if Hunger Free's asking and then BDT's asking, I mean, we could see if he is able or capable of doing any sort of like URL that is unique.
Really quick, back to
I
your
doubt it,
original
but-
question though.
You never know. Yeah, it's easy, I know, but I also know state bureaucracy well enough to know that it's probably not easy.
Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to look into how we could get that, if we could get that.
A good man. Yeah.
And I also would like, I mean, I'd like to argue for at least some way to have that local layer. So the actual local organization that's got the poster up, that's ultimately doing the referral, like what do they have feedback for us about, we only want postcards, or this language was just so off-putting, we couldn't use this, or I don't, whatever it was. I mean, I don't know how we get at that piece, and I think that's a really critical piece of feedback, because, we can, again, that first concentric circle, it's easier for me to see how we get the feedback, but it's that.
I think you have to do some anecdotal, like we do a broader survey, but then we also did a survey of certain partners in different regions to try to understand that piece of it. And I think it really just requires labor of, whether somebody calls up, whether it's a third party or whether it's, depending who you want it to be, I think people usually get open with feedback. So I mean, I think you just choose different types of partners in different areas and ask those questions. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, some of it probably isn't going to be able to be automated or.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that, and I want to be careful that we're not like over measuring something that we're like, this is a really basic awareness tool. Like, I don't think we're like, we're going to put up this poster and everyone will get enrolled in SNAP.
Right.
All of a sudden, we're like 10th in the nation instead of 48. So I want to be realistic about like what.
No, when we tick up to 47, I want to be able to take credit for that.
I mean, yeah, I like it. Along with the 18 other projects that we have going on at the same time. Like, I don't know that we're going to, so I do think we should have some metrics, and I think like not having to get necessarily into like how many individuals enrolled in SNAP because they saw this poster. Like there's so many, this is one method of many that are kind of layered together. I think we know best practice that like raising awareness is helpful and we need to do this. And so having that opportunity for organizations to provide input or having that feedback loop where, I don't know, I just want to be careful we don't like over measure.
Well, it sounds like there are like a few things we are trying at least to understand. One is like how many of these are being downloaded, and then one of them is what's the action being taken from this, and we can at least, and then the third is getting feedback from those partners on the actual like how they're using them. So I mean, if we may have to have 3 different avenues for those, but I think we could at least start with those and maybe get like 2 metrics for each. It sounds like we already have, like one would be downloads on the website, and another would be like literally the number, and then another would be the questions like how many are you outreaching?
The automated back and how many people are going to print and use.
Yeah. And then we could use is it hotline question referrals?
Yeah.
For each of the partners. Do they already do that?
Those are for those people.
But we could talk to each of the partners and see if how we could maybe ask questions to gather some of that.
I mean, if it's every 6 months, even if it's every 6 months, it might just be.
Getting a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just create a list that this group can review of the organizations we intend to follow up with. Again, the list of 8 or 6, not the list of 600, but like 6 that we can kind of count on to just give us some regular feedback, so we all have some comfort that if there is iteration to do on these, we can do it. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll create that list, and then we'll go with the metrics that are readily available to us. And now the burning question, BDT's Earl.
Oh, yes.
Can I ask one more question too on the distribution? So it's like we could definitely track Blueprint website downloads. Can we track like how many, I guess I'm not clear on this like digital site of how many organizations are kind of taking content and putting it on their own websites? Like we could track who those like if we know that there's 10 organizations who downloaded all of that content and put it on their websites, then they would be
we would know
people to ask.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, if we know that they've clicked out.
Yeah.
But so that's why we
And that they're
this
tracking it. I mean,
Right.
You have to, like, some organizations, if you're a small, like, it's a lot of work to go in and try to go into like Google Analytics and look at where people are coming from and doing. That's like.
But we could even just like know that, so if they're posting it on their website, we could assume they're relatively engaged with the materials, so they would be on a survey list, right?
Yes, so just saying, if you put it on your website, we don't necessarily need to know how many people might have landed on that page. And I'm just saying that might be an extra.
Yeah.
Step that
Agreed.
people figure it out.
I think you were asking at the beginning how tightly we wanted to control that issue. And I think we're kind of saying, we're gonna let it go out.
Yeah.
And we'll track what we can track.
Right.
And, like,
Yes,
just, yeah.
that's what I'm hearing. That's certainly my preference, because
Yeah.
we put a lot of time
Mine
and
too.
effort into these,
Yeah.
and making it too difficult to get to is.
So I'm just curious, maybe another way to look at this is kind of like a party post or a yes, no. Did you have outreach materials up in your organization before receiving these? You know, like I'm wondering if we could even show a percent increase in the marketing of these materials, because this number did not have it, and then at the end we had X% showing. I mean, it might just be as simple as that.
I like that. That could be a survey question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how that would play out. I'm visualizing that you're gonna click on the materials. Someone's gonna click on the materials. They're gonna want to download it. And then is there just this pop-up question that comes that says, thank you for downloading. How will you be using these materials? And blah, blah, blah. Like there's a pre-survey before you can actually get to the download to track this. Is that how this is working?
Well, that's how I was picturing it.
Okay.
That's how we do
And
it
so
on
then
our
this would
website.
be an additional question to say before or after.
I think, how do you guys do it? I'm guessing before you download it. but-
Well, we have, it's again, imperfect, so we, some of our partnerships, we just do customized materials, which is, you know, the challenge, and it's very time consuming, and we ask those questions, and there's a lot of back and forth. Other times, people go on our online store, and they actually have to create an account and download the free materials, and they ask those questions when they select, so they say, hey, I want, you know, I'm gonna download this poster, and in the checkout process, it asks, like, how many people do you think you're gonna reach? So it's a little bit, it doesn't take a lot of time, but there's definitely several steps to get through that. So we even tried to remove the requirement that people have an account and have to sign in at the front end, so we can remove that step and just have them fill out their shipping information and answer the questions when they download. So it's not, there's definitely some steps involved. So again, and they're both, and one requires more human like interaction and back and forth and correspondence with the people, and the other one is just like the media online. So, but they're both kind of.
I mean, I don't know, like, financially capacity with what we have to do that type of functionality. Maybe we can do that where we can have them fill out a form and then it redirects. There's also, I mean, a very like simple way would be to have like a Google form or something that's easy to set up where they fill out their information, and once it's submitted like that, it either redirects them to the page for download or has it in kind of the thank you message, like you thanks for completing your information. Here's the link, or here's the download, or here's the whatever to get to.
I guess the other thing for me is like, would it make sense just to have somebody put in like their name, an optional organizational affiliation, and an email address, and then we do the surveys? I don't know. I don't want to create steps where people are like, "Ooh, I don't want these materials anymore."
That's why I was asking the question.
Yeah.
We're asking for a lot of information. How's this gonna work?
Yeah, you just do an optional survey, and you're like, here's.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything perfect here, right?
No.
So the website is built on a platform where I can do, I think I can pull off almost everything you all were talking about in whichever way we want to do it. Again, I'd like to keep it simple, and I'd like to acknowledge that we have one person in the Blueprint office right now, and we'll be getting a couple more, but there's bandwidth issues there too. So where I can automate some of this, I'd like to, so that we can not take up a whole lot of people's time. So maybe the easiest way is to just ask them if they're going to download these, just give us your name, your organization, and email we can reach you at, and then we can follow up by personalized survey later, in whatever way we want to. And we're also gonna have that list of 6 or 8 organizations that we're gonna do a more robust follow-up with to get that feedback loop going.
I like that for now. I mean, I feel like from a metrics perspective, like knowing that there's organizations that want and are downloading these materials is like.
Good.
I agree.
Okay, great. All right, so that's how we'll keep it simple in that part. And I will memorialize this conversation for everybody so that we know what we're agreeing to do, so that down the road when a whole new group of people are like, why didn't there have all these metrics? We know why we didn't, right? We know what we were going for here, so we decided that we're gonna err on the side of getting them out as widely as we can, since there's some derivatives.
Well, and I think that answers your first question, right, that you posed in the beginning of our meeting. It's like, what's the goal? And then we would define our metrics based on our goal.
Right.
And the goal is to reach out to these people this wide range of people that might not know, and then are given the options to enroll and apply. So,
great. All right. Sam, you needed our feedback on your Earl.
Yeah, so I was just hoping, just kind of so it's my understanding that .benefitslaunch.org, that is going to stay, but any part before that. So I would just, and I'm glad that I heard that Blueprint X that, that's good to know. But yeah, I'm just kind of wondering what would kind of make the most sense if it was like Colorado Snap .benefitslaunch.org, if there was, Get Food Now, food something, I'm open to hear what people might think would be a good sort of tagline that might tie in with this specific outreach material. That would be our point of metrics also with the specific outreach material. As for right now, this is the only URL that we do have. We're hoping that when working with other partners, we're able to add different ones, but I mean, I just want to do the best one that I think would reflect the outreach material for this specific group.
Is there some kind of action oriented?
Yeah, that's kind of what, and I was like, get Snap, but then it's like, well, it's
What's
not,
that?
yeah, exactly. So, I didn't know. I mean, and I'm more than happy to brainstorm with my team, but I thought this would be a really good opportunity to have everyone here, because I'd love to hear everyone is the expert in their organization and what the intent of these materials are. So, hence why I'd like to pose it to the group.
What part of it can you customize? So is it the part, or is it the
anything? Yeah, anything before. Yeah.
Benefits launch?
Exactly. Yeah. And as I was mentioning, so Benefits Launch is for BDT is just in one other state, and it's in Pennsylvania. So having the Colorado helps to differentiate that this is the Benefits Launch that's happening in Colorado. That being said, if it was something specific to this group, I think that part is customizable and be able to differentiate from what's going on in Philadelphia. But
so is this confused? So you would want them to type in our vanity piece and then still enter this after the slash, or are you just saying?
So this would be
the redirect.
This is a placeholder for right now, and so the idea would be coming up with no one would need to type anything special in. Just this, whatever we might decide on would replace this colorado.benefitslaunch.org.
And it would redirect to that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it all redirects to the exact same place. It would just be, if they happen to click at this specific one, we could see where that material, how that person got to the one site. The site's not going to change.
No,
but,
right.
Okay.
Do we have to keep the benefitslaunch.org part or not? Yeah, I thought so.
I'm pretty sure, but let me double check. I am no expert when it comes to.
So if we would say Get Food Help Colorado, they would still have to have slash.
No, it would be like getfoodcolorado.benefitslaunch.org.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still kind of long.
Yeah. So like
That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. So like a one word or like a quick phrase or something would be the best. Because I guess too, if someone was looking at a poster, obviously they're not gonna be able to just click on a poster. It would be something that they would have to
type. That's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to
Okay. Yeah.
Like, do they have to type it?
But if you did co-snap.benefitslaunch.org.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something pretty simple and easy.
And I would say just for writing that out, you probably want to have snap all caps, even though like on a URL, it doesn't really matter once it's in, but just for readability. So that they're not thinking it's like napping or something.
Yeah.
Cause snaps?
Yeah.
I know, snap, I don't know what that is.
Or if you didn't have to have the benefits launch part, I think you could do like co.screenforsnap.org or something.
Yeah. I guess it'd be interesting to see if you could like buy that URL and redirect it.
That's what we do.
Or what if it was just co-screen for Snap? Yeah. Yeah.
Something simple.
I went
Shorter the better for us.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, I don't think, none of,
The shorter the better.
we're not gonna have marketing dollars to go behind this URL, so I think the shorter the better, the easier transfer from the poster to actually typing in the computer, whatever you guys decide that is. I don't think we care.
I kind of like not having any other, if we're gonna keep benefitslaunch.org, I would just keep co.
Yeah.
But just to keep it simple.
Okay.
But that's.
So you're just saying then we can't track.
Oh, then we
this
can't
or
track.
something
You have to change it.
You have to add something else to it.
All the postcards have this on it, right?
So so all the letters are getting redirected to, and that's something too that I can double check, like if it makes most sense for like outreach material to be that simple, like code, then I can maybe talk to the team and be like, hey, in our second iteration, when we send our letters out, maybe this will be the change in the URL that's specific to when we do our letters as opposed to outreach material. Like maybe this is the best URL to have for outreach material, and then we change what our regular one is to fit our letters that we traditionally send out. So that's something I can check on too. But yes, I agree, and I heard this too from my team. The simple phrase is the easiest. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure we own benefitslaunch.org, but I do like that idea of that, screen for Snap. I don't know if that's available or anything like that. And again, I don't know the finer details when it comes to any of this tech side. So these are good questions that I can that I can definitely ask. And I know we don't have like a hard fast timeline. Talking to my team, I know it takes a few weeks to like do this. So that's just something to keep in mind too. That once we decide on whatever it is, I think it will take just a little bit of time to purchase it, put it in, and all that kind of stuff. So, okay,
Great. So you'll just get back to me with what you guys want.
Yes.
I think we're open to whatever you want. Okay. So in terms of timeline really quickly, because I'm dying to give you back 15 minutes of free time today. My goal will be to get this fully built out round of content done as quickly as possible within the parameters that I've got to work with Max on the NDA and yes, that I need to work with BDT on and Sam on the URL here, and then build a back end on our website so that we can collect what we can collect for the downloads. So, it would be my hope that by mid-September to a little later September, you'll be giving me feedback on the iterations in the Google Drive so we can get that piece of it done, assuming that we have the URL. And what I may do in order to keep it moving is put a placeholder URL in there if BDT needs a little bit more time. You all will know that URL is going to become whatever they tell me it's going to become. But in the interest of leaving you all adequate time for feedback, review and feedback, maybe just putting those up even if we don't have that URL completely nailed down, but we'll have the rest of the elements there for you to look at.
And maybe we'll come up with just a few questions to drive feedback.
Yes, we will definitely come with some questions to drive feedback. Because we've all seen the content together so many times, I'm actually hoping your feedback will be more around, does it still retain its readability and look like something you can understand easily what you should do, and then what is your feedback on the actual visual representations on the posters? Have I missed groups of folks that you feel have to be represented? Okay. And what my goal is that these will be posted for your review, and we'll give you a good week and a half to do that review. Hopefully that's enough time for you to do it. That would put you in a terrible time crunch. But I don't want to leave them sit out there forever and kind of just keep dragging down the road. Okay, great. All right, so that's the goal, and we'll come back to you with the hard and fast timeline with actual dates put to it so you can see all of that. But it would be my hope, assuming that everything goes well in the review process, that we don't have to actually physically sit together again on this, but that we can do the review, the rest of the review digitally, and then keep moving. Okay.
Thank you, Michelle, for all your hard work.
No, thank you guys. It's been a great process, and I really appreciated all the input and the help, and I look forward to even more of that as we move into the final review.
And thank you all for all your time and feedback and effort, and it's been really awesome.
Yeah.
And the signage.
And everyone on the phone too.
Someone did you sign?
Oh, I will, yeah.
I just want to make sure you do.
Okay.
One more question.
Guys, I thought for some reason we were talking about figuring out how if work group 1 is going to be a separate work group or if it's going to be supportive of the other work groups. Do you have any conclusions on that?
We were hoping to at the governing council, but didn't really get any direction on that.
Okay.
So Erin and my next step we're going to be meeting with a few people from the governing council to nail down some priorities that we could potentially present, and then also some key characteristics as to what we should be evaluating those things on. So like if we come to you with options, here's a list of 10 options we could focus on, and then you guys need to know like, well, how do we figure out which are the most important? Having them give us input on those characteristics.
So
that's a thought.
Our next work group meeting will be in September, is that right? For this
That's
group?
the plan,
Okay.
yeah, the second week of September.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good question. I wish I had more.
The work group, that's the broader work group,
Yeah.
not this.
Yeah.
Work group 1.
So the work,
Right.
yeah.
That's the one I mean.
Yeah, yes, that's
But
what
this
we're
is
in.
like
It's like,
Yeah, then I'm saying, because I know we didn't have a meeting this month.
Correct.
We are.
Yeah, so-
We were just, eliminating all.
no, you're not being eliminated. We just didn't want to waste anyone's time. We're still trying to figure out like strategic direction.
So our next meeting for work group 1 will be Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And we will send out an email in the next week or two giving you an idea as to what that will look like.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Anyone on the phone have anything? Thanks, guys.
You've been here more than 2 hours? Yes, I have.
There you go. Have you've been here more than 2 hours. And Lori as well.
Thank you.
I don't know, when did you get here?
I think I got here.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
I don't know.
By the time I walked down.
This should be fine.
Just making sure guys with the parking, put the white one in first and then the orange one.
The white one in first when you're done.
You're fine with this one, because you live in